Hi and welcome Unity fans, here's a new one on how to create and use prefabs. In the last tutorial I created a lantern and now I imported all the different parts. Here's the lantern holder, the lantern and a candle. Okay, now I drag these parts into my scene and combine them so that we have a kind of composition with these three game objects. First I drag in the holder and add a mesh collider. Then I add the lantern and position it in a way so that it hangs on the holder. Okay, this looks good. Again, I add a mesh collider, but I will replace it later on with a box collider for better performance. But with the mesh collider I can drag in the candle now and position it directly to the bottom of the lantern. This is because game objects snap to the faces of the colliders. Okay, and now I go ahead and remove the mesh collider and add a box collider, because we don't need here very complex collisions. Okay, now let's create the hierarchy of these objects. The lantern holder is the parent and the child is the lantern, so I drag the lantern onto the lantern holder. And the candle will be the child of the lantern. Alright, now we have the correct hierarchy, and what I also want to add is a light, a point light. So with the candle selected I choose Game Object, Light, Point Light. And now this is added to the position of the candle. The only thing I have to do now is to let this point light be the child of the candle. So I find it here in the hierarchy and drag it onto the candle. Now we can play a little bit around with the color, the intensity and the range. And after that we have our complete composition of game objects that we want to use as a prefab. To use this as a prefab, select the root object, the lantern holder, and drag it into a folder that is named Prefabs. That is really all you have to do to create a prefab. And the advantage of the prefab is of course that you can just drag out this prefab into your scene as often as you need it. So if you need a lantern holder with a lantern and a light, just drag it from the prefabs folder into your scene like that. It's so useful. And now let's say you want to change something, for example the intensity of the light. And you don't want to do this for each object or for a single object, you want to do this for all these lanterns. So you change the property of one object and then you just press apply. Now it is modified for the prefab and all the instances in your scene. And when you add a new prefab to your scene, it also has this setting. Here you can see the light with a lower intensity. And it also works the other way around. Now let's say I made some mistakes, for example add a rotation or position that I'm not happy with, and I want to return to the original. The only thing I have to do now is to press the revert button to return to the settings of the original prefab. So that's it what I wanted to show about prefabs. I really hope you find this interesting and useful. And if you do, then don't forget to subscribe to this channel to be notified of new tutorials. Thanks for watching guys, thanks for your support, perhaps you consider supporting me on my Patreon, and I'll see you in the next one.